All right, so I'm going to show you how to solve these systems of equations, but using matrix format. And so you've already done this before earlier in the year. Like these basically represent three planes, and we'll talk about in class next time about these, all the ones today have solutions, like they have like one point where they meet, so I'll show you some pictures of that. But I just want you to see how you can do it with using matrices instead. And of course, you can use your calculator, but do it by hand this time. I'll be looking for that. So anyway, so we're going to write this in matrix form. So basically what you do is you drop all the x, y's, and z's. So it makes it a little bit easier to write, but you take all the coefficients. So on the top row, you have 1, -2, -2. And what you do, you won't see your book do this that much, but I like to put a line here. And so in some books, they put that. It's called an augmented matrix. So you put that, then you know that's the answer column. And then the next row, 2, 1, 3, -9. And then the next -1, -3, 1, and 2. And so you have to write what you're about to do. So we're going to remember the idea here. We have to get one of the variables to cancel out in two of the equations. So I see right here that this x and that x, if I add these two things together, then that is going to disappear. And then I'm going to make it disappear in another row as well, probably the second row. So I'm going to keep the first row the same, and I'm going to basically change the third row. My new third row, I would write this right here if I had space, but my new third row is going to be row 1 plus row 3. I'm going to put it right there to tell you what I'm doing. So my next, I'm going to keep 1, -2, -2, and 17. I'm keeping 2, 1, 3, -9. But in my mind, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this row right here, this row right here, and this row right here. Oopsie, the highlighter messed up, and adding them together. So if I do that, I get 0. Whoopsie. Oh my God. Sorry. If I do that, I get 0 for the first part, then I get -5, and then I get -1, and then I get 19. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with the second row. So I am going to take, this time I have to do some multiplication. I'm going to multiply -2 times row 1 and add it with row 2. And I'm writing it on row 2 because this is going to be my new row 2. All right, so row 1 I'm not changing. 1, -2, -2, 17. I'm going to leave row 2 blank for now, and I got 0, -5, -1, and 19 down here. All right, so in my mind, I am multiplying this row by -2 and adding it to that row. So I get -2 plus 2, which is 0, like I planned. All right, I'm canceling x's in both the second and third equations. Then for this guy, let's see, I multiplied this guy by -2, so I get 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. All right, then I multiply this guy by -2, so I get 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Then I multiply this guy by -2, I get -34, and -34 plus -9 is -43. All right, so now I have a really nice situation because I can see that if I add the second and the third row, one of the this middle part will go away. All right, so that's going to be my next move. What I'm really going for here, which I forgot to mention, sorry about that. You don't have this on your paper, but that's fine. So this is a different problem, but what we're going for is we're going for to get zeros here in these three places. All right, and that way when we have zeros, you can see I can just divide this by 2 and get to here. And so then I have one of my answers. Remember, this is the z spot. So this means that z equals 2. And then we're going to use that column or that row to basically get rid of the, I'm going to multiply it by -3 and add it to the second row right here so I can get rid of that. And then I have my y value. So I get y equals -1. And you do that enough times and we'll take it all the way through on this example we're doing on the other page, and we'll eventually get to here, and the answers, x, y, and z, will be right there. All right, so we're going to do the whole painful thing here, but sometimes you can stop earlier and figure out the answers on the side just because you know how to solve systems of equations. All right, So my third row, let's see, is going to be row 2 plus row 3. I'm putting that in my third row. So 1, negative 2, 17. I got 0, 5, 7, negative 43 for now. And I'm adding these two things to get my new third row. I'm putting it in my new third row. So I got 0, I got 0, I got 6, and negative 43 plus 19 is negative 24. And I can easily see, so I don't have to like, do a whole new like matrix or whatever, but you can easily see here that basically we can divide the last row by 6 or multiply it by 1/6, and this is going to change to a 1 and this is going to change to a negative 4. All right, so I have my first answer. I have that z equals negative 4. All right, so I'm going to use that. So remember, we're going to do it this all the way through, and on the next problem that I show you, I'll like stop early and make it a little quicker. But anyway, I'm going to use that last row right there. I have 1 and negative 4. So I'm going to multiply that third row by negative 7. So my new second row is going to be negative 7, row 3, plus row 2. That's my new second row, because I want this times negative 7 to cancel out with that. All right, so here we go. So my top 1, negative 2, 17. My third row is not changing, 0, 0, 1, negative 4. All right, but my new second row, there's nothing in this front. The center has 0 here, so 7 times 0 plus 5 is still 5, but this is where I'm looking for the change right there. So I have negative 7 times my 1, which is negative 7, and negative 7 plus 7 is 0. That's what I planned. And then for the numbers on the side, the augmented part, I have negative 4 times negative 7 right here. So I get 28, and 28 plus negative 43 is negative 15. All right, and so now I see I have an answer for y. Basically, 5y equals negative 15. I can divide that row by 5 or multiply it by 1/5. This is going to turn to a 1. This is going to turn into a negative 3. And, you'll see books that write that down. But why don't we write like our nice clean answer here. I got 1, negative 2, 17, 0, 1, 0, and then negative 3, 0, 0, 1, and negative 4. So I'm going to use these, the second and the third row, to get rid of this and this. All right, so here we go. So my new first row, I'm going to, let's see, take 2 times row 2 and add it to row 1, because that way it'll get rid of the center number. So the bottom two are staying the same, 0, 1, 0, negative 3, 0, 0, 1, negative 4. But the top row is changing. All right, the top row is 2 times row 2, adding with row 1. So this one's going to stay because nothing's below it. 2 times row 2 right here will be 2. 2 plus negative 2 is 0. Here, 2 times nothing is nothing, and add it to negative 2, so it's still negative 2. And here, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Add it to 17, you get 11. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing. That'll be the last step, and we are going to take 2 times row 3, because I see if I multiply this by 2 and add it to that, it'll go away, and add it to row 1. It'll be my last move. All right, so 0, 1, 0 for the second row, negative 3, and 0, 0, 1, negative 4. Those are staying the same. So the 1 here and the 0 here are not changing because I have nothing to change them with, but I have 2 times 1, which is 2, add it to negative 2 above, and I get 0. And then 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus this 11 here is 3. So there you go. There is your answer right there. So you can tell that your solution is 3, negative 3, negative 4. All right, and so you don't have to take this all to the bitter end. I'm going to show you in the next example how you can kind of stop early. And I didn't mean for this next example to be so horrible, but it's a little bit messy. And, sometimes you can use your calculator to do your addition and whatnot. All right, so here we go. I got 2, 5, 5, and then negative 28. right, so when I was looking at this one, I don't know, I just tried to look for something a little bit simple. So what I did, let's see, I tried to get rid of this guy right here. So I multiplied the bottom row by 3 and added it with the second row. All right, so let's do that. So why don't we do 3 times row 3, all right, and add it with row 2. That's going to be my new row 3. All right, so my 2, 5, 5, negative 28 is staying the same. All right, my second row is not changing, 3, 1, 3, and then negative 22. My new third row is 3 times itself plus row 2. So I get 3 times negative 5, so negative 15. Negative 15 plus 3 above is negative 12. And I get 3 times negative 6, which is negative 18. Negative 18 plus 1 above is negative 17. Sorry. And then 3 times negative 1, so that's negative 3. And negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so that's good. And then I have 3 times 29 plus negative 22. So let me see. Maybe I'll pull out my calculator. So sometimes, you might want to grab your calculator out, but it wouldn't be that hard to do in your head. 3 times 29 minus 22. Whoops. And by now you probably have it figured out. All right, but anyway, 65. All right, so if we've done that in one row, then we have to do it in another row. And so I have to get rid of the 3 or the 5 right here and right here. So now I'm stuck kind of doing 2 things at once, or just like two manipulations. So I'm going to multiply the top row by negative 3. So negative 3 times row 1. And I'm going to add that to 5 times row 2. So it's kind of like you used to do in Algebra 1 when you wanted to get rid of 2 things at once, but you had to change both rows. So, if you multiply this guy by negative 3 and multiply this guy by 5 and add them together, obviously you'll get 15s to cancel out. All right, so let's do it. So the top 2, 5, and negative 28 is staying. All right, third row is not changing, so I'll leave that. Negative 12, negative 17, 0, and 65. All right, so here we go. So negative 3 times row 1. So that's going to be negative 6 plus 15 right here. So negative 6 plus 15 is 9. All right, and then I have negative 3 times this guy, so negative 15 plus 5 right here. So negative 15 plus 5 is negative 10. And then I have what I planned on doing is canceling out, so 0. And now over here, I have negative 3 times negative 28. So 3 times 28. So 3 times 28, because negative times a negative is positive, plus 5 times negative 22. So minus 5 times 22. All right, so negative 26. So this one is especially nasty. All right, but let's see, not much else I can do right here. So we're going to do the same thing. Now I've gotten a 0 here and a 0 there. So what we're going to do is go ahead and, I don't know, how about this 9 and this 12 right here? Okay. So let's see. Once I get rid of that, then I'll pretty much be done, and we'll just get rid of this matrix idea. So I'm going to multiply, let's see, my new row 2 is going to be 12 times row 2, and I'm going to add that to 9 times row 3. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm multiplying this row by 12 and this row by 9, and then those will cancel out. Okay, so here we go. So top row, 2, 5, 5, negative 28. All right, my third row is not going to change, so I'm going to leave negative 12, negative 17, 0, and 65. All right, but my new second row. So the goal was to cancel out the first spot, so that's going to be 0. So I have to multiply 12 times negative 10, so that's negative 120, plus 9 times this guy. So basically minus 9 times 17, right? So I got negative 120, yep. So let's see, 9 times 17, let's see, that's 90 and 63. Well, we grab a calculator. Okay, so I got negative 120 minus 9 times 17. All right, so negative 273. Ay, ay, ay. Negative 273. All right, and then we have, let's see, negative 26 times 12. So I'll use my calculator again. So 12 times negative 26, and then I'm going to add that with 9 times 65. Oops, too many multiplication symbols. All right, 273. Phew. All right, so 273. All right, so we're going to stop this matrix business because this one was horrible. So right there, though, I have an answer. So remember, these two are going to be zeros right there. So I have basically, if I put my y back right here, I have just figured out that y equals negative 1. So y equals negative 1. So let's go back and fill some stuff in here. This one says that negative 12x minus 17y equals 65. So I'm going to put my old negative 1 in there. So I get negative 12x plus 17 equals 65. So negative 12x equals 65 minus 17, 50 is 48. All right, so x equals negative 4. And once I have two answers, I can go back to anything. How about this top row? 2x plus 5y plus 5z equals negative 28. So I will have, plugging in my x, I get negative 8. Plugging in my y right here, I have be minus 5 plus 5z equals negative 28. So I get 5z. See, negative 28, and I'm going to be adding 13. So negative 15. So z equals negative 3. All right, so there's my answer. X is negative 4, then negative 1, then negative 3. So there's my solution. All right, so that one was quite horrible, but your two problems hopefully will not be, well, they don't look too bad. All right, so I will show you next time, and you can stop early. I was just trying to show you the first one to the bitter end, basically. But if you get to a point where you understand what's going on, like we did in the second problem, go ahead and finish out. We're just looking for the answers. I mean, ultimately, we're going to have to understand what this means and how that's like the nice perfect answer form right there. But doing this by hand is just for practice because ultimately we'll be using our calculator also. All right, I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.